The night was cold and quiet on the planet Alaris. 2 moons hung in the sky, their silver light shining on the black waters of the Vorn River. The forest around the river was alive with strange sounds, clicking insects, glowing plants, and the distant cries of unseen creatures. Near the river's edge, 4 tall figures moved slowly through the mist. Their long robes brushed the wet grass. Their faces were hidden behind dark masks. They spoke in low, trembling voices. In their arms they carried a woman, small, fragile, and unmoving. Her skin was pale blue, her eyes closed, and her legs hung uselessly at her sides. Her name was Lura. She was born among the Jari, a proud alien race known for their strength and grace. But Lura was different. She could not walk. Her spine had been broken since birth, and her family believed she was cursed. To them, she was a shame, a reminder of a dark time when humans and Jari fought a brutal war. Some said the curse of humanity had touched her. Now her family had decided to end their shame. "Forgive us," whispered one of the masked figures. Her mother. Her voice broke with sorrow. "The spirits will forgive this." Laura's eyes opened weakly. "Mother, please," she whispered. But no one answered. Her brother, the tallest among them, lifted her higher. "The river will take her," he said. "The water will wash the curse away." Laura's heart pounded. She could not move her arms, she could not fight, but her mind screamed in fear. The cold air stung her face as her family stepped closer to the edge. The river below roared like a beast hungry for life. "Don't," she begged again, her voice breaking into tears. "Please." But her brother turned his head away. And without another word, they pushed her into the dark. The world spun. Lura felt the air leave her lungs as she hit the freezing water. Pain shot through her body, sharp and endless. The current pulled her under. She could not swim. She could not even move. The river swallowed her whole. Above the rushing water, her family stood silently. For a moment, they looked down, 4 shadows against the moonlight. Then they turned and walked away, their robes fluttering in the night wind. The water roared louder, as if calling after them. Far downstream, another pair of eyes watched the scene unfold. Captain Ryan Hale, a human explorer, had crash-landed on Alaris 3 days earlier. His ship lay hidden in the forest nearby, half buried in mud. His radio was dead, his supplies were low, and his hope was fading. He had been trying to repair his ship's power core when he saw something fall into the river. At first, he thought it was debris. Then he saw the shape. A person, small and struggling. Without thinking, he ran. Ryan threw off his jacket, his boots sinking in the wet mud as he reached the riverbank. The current was strong, faster than anything he had seen on Earth. But the figure in the water was sinking, disappearing under the foam. "Hang on," he shouted, even though he knew she couldn't hear him. He dove in, the cold hit him like a wall. His chest burned as he fought the current. His arms sliced through the dark water, searching blindly. For a moment he saw nothing but blackness. Then, a faint glow. Her skin was glowing blue beneath the water. Ryan grabbed her wrist and pulled hard, kicking upward. His lungs screamed for air. At last, his head broke the surface. He gasped, dragging her with him. Her body was limp, her head falling back as he held her tight. "Come on, don't you die on me," he muttered through chattering teeth. The river fought to keep them, but Ryan pushed on, using every bit of his strength. Finally, he reached the shore and collapsed, pulling her onto the muddy ground. He rolled her onto her back and saw her face, delicate, otherworldly, with faint lines of light tracing her cheeks. "Alien," he breathed, but she looked almost human. Too human. Ryan placed his hands on her chest and began pressing hard. "Breathe," he said. "Come on." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the gasp, a weak, trembling breath escaped her lips. Her chest rose. Her eyes opened, glowing faintly in the dark. She looked up at him, confused and afraid. Her lips trembled. "Up, man," she whispered. Ryan froze. He didn't know if she was afraid of him or grateful. He didn't even know if she could understand him. But one thing was clear. She was alive, and someone had tried to kill her. Ryan looked around the forest. The night was silent again, but he could feel eyes watching from somewhere beyond the trees. He didn't know who they were or why they had thrown her away, but he knew one thing for sure. He couldn't leave her here. He took a deep breath, lifted her gently in his arms and whispered, "You're safe now. I've got you." The river flowed behind them, whispering secrets in the dark, as if warning them both that this rescue was only the beginning. The rain began just after midnight. It came quietly at first, a thin mist falling over the trees, then turned into a cold, steady downpour. The drops tapped against metal as Captain Ryan Hale carried the alien woman back to the wreck of his ship. His arms burned from the effort, and his breath came in sharp, uneven gasps. She was light as air, but her body felt lifeless in his hands. Her head rested against his shoulder, her long silver hair hanging wet and tangled. Her blue skin shimmered faintly under the rain, like light under glass. When Ryan reached the ship, he kicked open the emergency hatch and stumbled inside. The lights flickered weakly. Sparks hissed from broken panels. The smell of burnt circuits filled the air. His ship had once been a proud exploration vessel, the Horizon Dawn, but now it was nothing more than a metal coffin half buried in mud. He laid her gently on the floor near the heater and tore open his med kit. "All right," he said softly. "Let's see if we can keep you breathing." Her pulse was faint, almost gone. Her chest barely moved. Ryan's hands shook as he attached a pulse scanner. It flashed red. "Come on, don't do this," he muttered. "You didn't survive that river just to die now." He started chest compressions again, pressing firmly against her rib cage. 1, 2, 3, 4. His voice counted the rhythm out loud, filling the silence. He tilted her head and breathed into her mouth. Her skin was cold, too cold. After several attempts, she gasped suddenly, a small sound, weak but real. Water spilled from her lips. Ryan turned her head and let it drain. She coughed, then took a shaky breath, her eyes fluttering open. They were the color of violet lightning. For a long moment, she just stared at him, her gaze frightened and lost. She tried to move, but her arms trembled and fell. "Hey, easy," Ryan said gently. "You're safe. I pulled you out of the river. You're going to be okay." Her eyes darted around the wrecked cabin, the blinking lights, the strange human machines, the rain tapping on the hull. She looked confused, almost terrified. "You are human," she whispered. Her voice was quiet, soft, like a melody breaking. Ryan froze. She spoke English, or something close to it. He had never expected that. "Yeah," he said carefully. "Name's Ryan. Captain Ryan Hale. I mean you no harm." She blinked slowly, as if trying to understand his words. Her lips trembled. "My people," said humans bring death. Ryan gave a tired half-smile. "Guess you'll have to judge that for yourself." He wrapped a blanket around her and adjusted the heater's setting. Warm air began to flow, chasing away the chill. The color started to return to her face, though her body still shook from cold and fear. "What's your name?" Ryan asked quietly. "Laura," she whispered. "Laura of the House of Shale," Ryan nodded. "Nice to meet you, Laura. Though, not exactly under the best conditions." For the first time, a tiny spark of humor flickered in her eyes. Then she winced, pain flashing across her face. "My legs," she whispered. "I can't feel my legs." Ryan looked down. The scanner showed nerve failure from the waist down. "They're not responding," he said softly. "But you're alive. That's what matters now." Laura turned her face away, tears mixing with rainwater on her cheeks. "Alive," she said bitterly. "For what?" Ryan had no answer. He looked at her, at the strange markings glowing faintly along her skin. She was unlike any alien he had ever seen, fragile yet beautiful, human in her expression but not in her form. Outside, thunder rumbled. The ship shook slightly and Ryan looked toward the forest. The sensors were still offline, but he felt something, a presence like eyes watching from the dark. He reached for his pulse rifle and loaded a cell. "We're not alone," he muttered. Laura's breathing quickened. "They will come," she said quietly. "My family. They will not stop." Ryan frowned. "Your family?" "The ones who—" He stopped himself. "They're coming back to finish the job, aren't they?" She nodded weakly. "They will not forgive what you did. You touched me, saved me. They will call it a crime." Ryan clenched his jaw. "Then let them come." He checked the door locks, adjusted the lights to a dim red, and returned to her side. "Rest now," he said. "You're safe here for the night." But Laura didn't look convinced. Her eyes stared past him toward the door. "They will come in silence," she whispered. "They do not speak before they kill." Ryan paused. The rain outside had softened, but beneath it he could hear something else, the faint crunch of footsteps in the mud. He turned off the heater and grabbed his rifle again. The light from the control panel reflected off his tense face. "Stay quiet," he said softly. Laura closed her eyes, her glowing veins dimming to a soft pulse. Ryan aimed his weapon at the door. The rain stopped completely. Then, a shadow moved across the glass. The storm had passed, but the forest outside still whispered with wet wind. The wreck of the Horizon Dawn stood half buried in mud and ash, glowing faintly from its emergency lights. Inside, Captain Ryan Hale sat silently beside the alien woman, Laura, listening for sounds beyond the metal walls. The air was thick and heavy. Every few seconds, water dripped from the ceiling. Plink, plink, plink. It was the only sound that dared to move. Laura lay wrapped in a blanket near the heater. Her eyes were open but unfocused, watching the soft red glow of the ship's warning lights. The color made her skin shimmer faintly, her markings glowing in quiet rhythm with her breathing. Ryan checked the door locks again. "Nothing on the scanner," he whispered to himself. Maybe it was just the wind, but deep inside he didn't believe it. He turned to Laura. "How are you feeling?" Her voice was weak, barely above a whisper. Heavy, like the air is pressing on me. "That's the sedative I gave you," Ryan said. "It'll help with the pain." She nodded slowly. "You should not have done that," Ryan frowned. "You'd be dead if I hadn't." Laura looked at him with strange, sad eyes. "You don't understand. My blood is poison to your kind. If you touch it for too long..." She trailed off. Ryan glanced at his hands. Tiny blue sparkles from her skin glimmered faintly on his fingertips like dust that refused to fade. "Well," he said with a dry laugh, "guess I'll find out soon enough." For a moment she almost smiled, but then her expression darkened again. "They will come," she whispered. "They always come for what they throw away." Ryan crouched beside her. "You mean your family?" She didn't answer right away. Her gaze drifted toward the sealed door. "They believe in old ways and purity. To them, mercy is weakness, and weakness must be drowned." Her words sent a cold shiver through him. "That's insane." "It is their way," Laura said softly. "But now you've broken it." Ryan rubbed his face, exhaustion showing in every line. "So saving your life just made me a target." "Yes," she said quietly. "You are now part of their shame." Outside, the forest began to stir again. The sound was subtle, a faint rustling, then silence. Ryan moved to the window slit and looked out. The mist had returned, crawling low across the ground. Between the trees, something shimmered, shapes moving in pairs, walking silently through the fog. He turned away from the window. "We need to move." Laura blinked slowly. "Move where?" "There's an old mining shelter about 2 clicks east of here," Ryan said. "I saw it when I was scouting for parts. It's underground, safer than this wreck. If we stay here, we're dead." Laura tried to sit up but cried out in pain. Her legs refused to move. "I can't walk." "Then I'll carry you," Ryan said simply. Her eyes widened. "You would risk your life again for me?" He gave a tired smile. "You think I came all this way just to watch you get killed twice?" Without waiting for her answer, he packed his gear. A med kit, water filters, his rifle, and a small power core wrapped in cloth. Then he gently lifted her into his arms. Her skin was warm now, glowing softly against his chest. As he stepped out into the mist, the cold air hit him like a wave. The forest smelled of wet earth and electricity. Strange insects glowed under the leaves, lighting the path in eerie blue. Every few steps, Ryan paused to listen. Once he thought he heard a whisper, a voice carried by the wind. He tightened his grip on Laura and kept walking. They reached a ravine where the ground split open like a wound. The mining shelter lay hidden below, half collapsed but still standing. Ryan climbed down carefully, his boots sliding on wet stone. When they reached the bottom, he found a metal door half buried in vines. It took all his strength to pry it open. The smell of rust and dust hit him as they entered the darkness inside. Ryan laid Laura on a metal cot and turned on a small light. "Not home," he said, "but it'll do." Laura looked around. "You keep saving me," she whispered. "Maybe I just have a bad habit," he said, checking his rifle's charge again. But as he turned away, Laura reached out and caught his wrist. "No," she said softly. "You are not like them. You see what others refuse to see." Ryan paused, meeting her gaze. For a moment, everything else faded. The war, the fear, the rain. Then a sudden noise broke the silence. Thud. Something had landed above the shelter. The sound of footsteps echoed on the metal roof. Ryan's blood ran cold. He switched off the light. The darkness swallowed them both. Lura's voice trembled in the dark. "They have found us." Ryan raised his rifle slowly, his finger hovering over the trigger. "Then they're about to regret it." The air grew still. The shadows above moved closer to the hatch. Outside, the wind whispered again, but this time it carried words. "Give her to us, human." The night was silent again, but not peaceful. The air around the hidden shelter felt heavy, thick with tension. Captain Ryan Hale stood near the doorway, holding his pulse rifle tight. Above him, faint footsteps faded into the distance. Whoever had been outside was gone. For now. Inside, the flickering light of a portable lamp fell softly over Lura, the alien woman he had saved. She lay still on the cot, her face pale, her eyes wide open but far away, lost somewhere deep in memory. Ryan lowered his rifle and knelt beside her. "They're gone," he whispered. For the moment, Lura didn't reply. She stared at the wall, her breathing uneven. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "You're safe here. You can rest." Her lips moved slowly. "There is no safety," she said, voice trembling. "Not for me. Not for you." Ryan frowned. "You keep saying that. I need to understand, Lura. Why are they hunting you? Why would your own family throw you into a river?" Lura closed her eyes for a moment as if the question itself caused pain. When she spoke again, her words were slow, each one heavy with meaning. "You humans do not know what the Jari became after the war," she began softly. "You left and we were never the same again." Ryan stayed silent. "Our people were proud once, strong. But when your kind came, everything changed. You brought fire and machines and sickness we had never known. My people won the war. But we paid a price." Her voice broke. "Children like me were born broken, weak. Some could not breathe the air for long, some could not walk. They called it the human curse. They said the touch of your kind poisoned our bloodline." Ryan's chest tightened. "That's not possible. The war ended centuries ago." Lura looked at him then, her violet eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Curses do not die with time, Captain. Fear keeps them alive." She turned her head toward the ceiling where rain dripped faintly through cracks in the rock. "When I was born, my mother cried for 3 days. My father refused to look at me. The healers said my spine was twisted, that no power could fix it. From that moment, I was marked." Ryan swallowed hard. "And your family thought killing you would erase the shame?" Lura nodded slowly. "They believe that the river forgives. If they send away the cursed, their name stays pure." Ryan clenched his fists. "That's not forgiveness. That's murder." Lura looked at him quietly. "To them, it is faith." A long silence filled the shelter. The low hum of the power core was the only sound. Ryan sat down beside her, resting his weapon against the wall. "Then tell me something," he said softly. "Why did they fear me saving you? Why would they care if a human touched you?" Lura's eyes darkened. "Because the old stories say that if a human touches a cursed one, the curse awakens," Ryan frowned. "Awakens? What does that mean?" She hesitated. Her hands trembled as she pulled back the blanket covering her arms. Along her blue skin, the glowing veins had spread, brighter now, pulsing slowly like liquid light. Ryan's breath caught. "That wasn't there before. I told you," Lura whispered. "My blood reacts to human life. When you saved me, something inside me changed. I can feel it burning. Like the river is inside me now." He leaned closer, scanning her vitals on the wrist monitor. Her heart rate was rising, energy readings spiking. "It's not a curse, Lura, it's something else. Maybe your body's healing." She gave a faint, bitter laugh. "Healing? My kind would call this corruption. They would kill me to stop it from spreading." Ryan shook his head. "Then they'll have to go through me first." Lura looked at him, really looked at him, as if seeing something she'd never understood before. "Why do you care so much, human?" "You owe me nothing." Ryan met her gaze. "Because someone once saved me when I didn't deserve it. I know what it feels like to be thrown away." For a moment, their eyes met in silence. Two strangers from opposite worlds, bound by something neither could explain. Then the light flickered again. The power core hummed louder. Ryan turned toward the control panel and saw the motion sensors blink red. "They're back," he said quietly. Lura's eyes widened. No, not my family. The hunters. The what? They are not family, she whispered. They are worse. My people send them to find the cursed ones. They erase us from history. Outside, a low mechanical hum filled the night, a sound like metal wings cutting through fog. Ryan grabbed his rifle. How many? Lura listened carefully, her glowing skin flickering faster. 3, maybe 4. Ryan moved to the door. Then we fight. Lura shook her head weakly. You can't kill them. They don't bleed like us. Ryan's voice was calm, steady. Then we make them bleed anyway. The wind outside grew louder. The hum turned into a roar, and as shadows moved across the shelter entrance, Lura whispered one last thing, her voice trembling between fear and hope. The curse has woken, Captain, and now they will all come for us. The forest was no longer silent. It breathed. Every rustle, every whisper of wind carried a warning. From the shadows above the shelter, shapes moved, tall, thin, and silent. Their armor shimmered like wet stone, changing colors to blend with the dark. Their eyes glowed faintly white, scanning the ground below. The Jari hunters had arrived. Inside the underground shelter, Captain Ryan Hale pressed his ear against the steel door. The faint hum of machines filled the air outside. Lura sat behind him, clutching her blanket, her face pale but her eyes bright with fear. They're here, she whispered. Ryan nodded. Then we keep quiet and wait. He turned off the light and motioned for her to stay still. His hand tightened on his rifle. The sound of the hunters' boots echoed faintly on the metal roof above them. Slow, deliberate hunting steps. Lura's voice trembled. They can smell energy. If your weapon is charged, they'll sense it. Ryan cursed under his breath. He powered down the rifle, the lights on its side fading to black. That's better? She nodded weakly. They do not hunt with sight. They hunt with silence. When they stop moving, that's when they strike. Outside, everything suddenly went still. The forest held its breath. Ryan's pulse quickened. He could hear the faint hum of one hunter's breathing. Deep, mechanical, steady. He counted the beats. 1, 2, 3. Then, without warning, a sharp clang rang through the air. The top hatch of the shelter dented inward. Dust rained from the ceiling. They found us, Ryan hissed. The next hit came harder. The hatch cracked open slightly, a beam of silver light cutting into the darkness. Lura gripped the edge of the cot. You must run! Ryan turned sharply. I'm not leaving you. You don't understand, she cried. If they kill you, they'll take your body. They'll use it to find more humans. You must go. Ryan ignored her. He grabbed the power core from his pack and smashed it against the ground. The sudden burst of light blinded the room, flaring like a star. The hunters above screamed, a harsh metallic sound that shook the air. Ryan used the moment to grab Lura, lifting her in his arms once more. Hold on! The metal door burst open behind them as they ran down a narrow tunnel that led deeper into the old mine. The walls were lined with rusted pipes and broken lamps. Their footsteps echoed, mixing with the distant howls of the hunters. They're following, Lura gasped. I noticed, Ryan grunted, his breath sharp and fast. They reached a fork, 2 tunnels leading into darkness. Ryan stopped, trying to decide. Behind them, the sound of claws scraping metal grew louder. Left, Lura whispered suddenly. That path leads to the river. Ryan didn't question her. He turned left and ran, the tunnel twisting like a serpent beneath the earth. The air grew damp, the smell of water stronger. Ahead, a faint blue glow appeared. The tunnel opened into a massive cavern, and there it was, the river, flowing silently underground, its surface shimmering with the same light that glowed beneath Lura's skin. Ryan laid her down gently by the edge. We can't outrun them forever. Any ideas? Lura looked at the glowing water, her face filled with both fear and wonder. This river is old, she whispered. It remembers everything thrown into it. My family sent me here to die, but it seems it kept me alive. Ryan frowned. What are you saying? She touched the surface with her fingertips. The glow rippled outward, brighter and brighter until the whole cavern shimmered like glass. The river knows me, she said softly. Maybe it will listen again. Ryan heard movement behind them. He raised his rifle. 3 hunters appeared at the tunnel's mouth, tall and sharp like shadows made solid. Stay back, he shouted. They didn't stop. Lura's hands glowed brighter. The water began to rise, forming a swirling wall between them and the hunters. The creatures screamed as the glowing current struck them like lightning, throwing them backward into the darkness. Ryan shielded his face from the light. When he looked again, the tunnel was empty. Only steam and blue sparks remained. Laura collapsed, gasping. The glow faded from her skin. Ryan dropped beside her, holding her hand. "Hey, stay with me." "You did it. You stopped them." She opened her eyes slowly, her voice barely a whisper. "No, not stopped. Delayed. They will return. The river can't hold them forever." Ryan looked toward the tunnel, smoke still drifting from it. He exhaled hard. "Then next time we'll be ready." Laura gave a faint smile. "You fight like one of us." Ryan looked down at her, shaking his head. "No, I fight like someone with nothing left to lose." Outside, far beyond the cavern walls, the wind howled across the dark planet. And above the clouds, ships began to move. The hunters were calling for reinforcements. The cavern trembled. Drops of glowing water fell from the ceiling, splashing against the stone floor like falling stars. Smoke from the battle still hung in the air, thick and bitter. Ryan Hale pressed his hand against the rock wall, catching his breath. His rifle was empty, his muscles ached, and his mind raced. Beside him, Laura lay motionless, her skin dim, the glow fading from her veins. The river that had saved them moments ago was calm again, whispering softly in the dark. Ryan knelt beside her. "Hey, stay with me. We have to move." Her eyelids fluttered. "It's quiet," she whispered. "That means they are calling for more." Ryan glanced upward. The rock ceiling trembled slightly. Far above them, faint metallic sounds echoed, ships cutting through the clouds. "You're right," he muttered. "We've got minutes, maybe less." He looked around the cavern. The water flowed through a narrow tunnel leading back toward the surface. He could hear the wind faintly beyond it. "That's our way out." Laura's head turned toward the sound. "The river leads to the outer forest. But it is not safe. My people burn that place to cleanse it." Ryan gave a tired grin. "Then let's give them something to cleanse." He lifted her once more, her body light and warm against his chest. The water rose to his knees as he stepped into the glowing current. The river pulled at him fast and strong, but he held her tight and followed its flow. The tunnel twisted and narrowed. Cold air brushed against his face, carrying the smell of smoke. A faint orange light grew ahead. Firelight. When they emerged from the tunnel, the sight stole his breath. The forest was burning. Tall trees, black and skeletal, cracked and fell under a sky of red and gold. Flames climbed the trunks like hungry beasts. Ash drifted through the air like snow. The hunters had come before them, setting fire to everything. Ryan shielded Laura's face from the heat. "We have to move now." He staggered forward through the smoke, coughing. Sparks fell around them. The fire's glow reflected off Laura's eyes. Not with fear, but with something else. Anger. They would burn their own world. She whispered bitterly. "Just to erase one life." Ryan didn't answer. His legs felt heavy. His vision blurred from the smoke. He stumbled, nearly falling. Laura's hand caught his wrist weakly. "Let me help you," she said. "You can barely breathe," Ryan coughed. "Save your strength." But Laura shook her head. Her eyes glowed again, faint but steady. "The river is still with me. It listens when I call." She raised one trembling hand. Blue light spread from her fingers, winding through the air like mist. The flames closest to them hissed and turned cold, frozen in place by the strange energy. Steam filled the air as glowing water formed around them, wrapping them in a thin living shield. Ryan's eyes widened. "You can control it, not control," she whispered. "It remembers me. It remembers the one who fell into it and lived." The shield moved with them, protecting them as they pushed through the burning forest. Each step forward felt like walking through a nightmare. The heat, the smoke, the sound of distant engines circling above. They reached a ridge where the ground fell away to a wide river valley. The water below shimmered with the same blue light. Laura looked down, her expression changing, fear turning to calm. "That is where I was born," she said softly. "Where they first called me cursed." Ryan set her down gently on the grass. His arms trembled from exhaustion. "Then maybe it's time they saw what their curse can do." She met his gaze, a spark of determination flickering in her eyes. "Help me to the edge," he did. Together they stood at the ridge as the sky above filled with dark shapes, the hunters' ships descending through the smoke. The wind howled, carrying their metallic voices. "Lura of Shell," one voice boomed through a speaker. You were born from shame. Return to the river or burn with the human. Ryan raised his rifle, though he knew it was useless. You'll have to come down here and make us. Lura's hand touched his arm. No, Captain, she whispered. You already saved me once. Now it's my turn. Before he could stop her, she stepped forward and lifted both hands. The river below answered her call. Water burst upward like a living serpent, twisting into the sky. The glow blinded him. The hunter's ships shuddered as the current struck them, tearing through metal and flame. Ryan fell to his knees, shielding his face. The air vibrated with sound, a deep, powerful hum that shook the ground. Then silence. When he opened his eyes, the ships were gone. The fire was dying. The sky was clear again. Lura stood at the edge of the ridge, the glow fading from her body. She turned to him, her expression peaceful. It's done, she said softly. The river has taken them. Ryan walked to her slowly. And you? She looked at her hands, and now faintly glowing but steady. I think the curse is no longer a curse. The wind brushed through her silver hair as dawn began to break over the horizon. For the first time, Ryan saw her smile. The world was quiet again. The fire had burned itself out, leaving the forest in gray ash and silence. Smoke drifted low over the valley, glowing gold in the first light of morning. Captain Ryan Hale stood on the ridge, staring at the rising sun. For the first time in days, he could breathe without fear. His hand shook as he lowered his broken rifle. The weapon was useless now, just metal and memory. Beside him, Lura stood barefoot on the blackened earth. The faint blue glow along her skin had dimmed, leaving only a soft pulse at her wrists. Her silver hair moved gently in the wind. She looked alive. You're standing, Ryan said quietly. Lura smiled faintly, looking down at her legs as if she didn't quite believe it herself. I don't feel pain anymore, she whispered. The river healed what life could not. Ryan watched her take a slow step forward, then another. Each movement was careful, graceful, full of wonder. Guess that curse wasn't so bad after all. She turned to him, her violet eyes soft. You don't understand, Captain. The curse wasn't real. It was only fear passed from parent to child until it became law. Ryan nodded slowly. And fear dies hard. Lura looked out at the valley. The once mighty river below shimmered faintly blue. The light that had destroyed the hunters still danced in its waves, fading with the dawn. They will come again, she said quietly. Not my family, but others. My world will not understand what happened here. Then we'll tell them, Ryan said. All of them. Someone has to know the truth. Before Lura could answer, a soft hum filled the air. Ryan looked up, and his heart leapt. Through the thinning clouds, a ship was descending. It was human-built, with white markings and a blue insignia on its hull. The Atlas Search Vessel 12. Lura shaded her eyes. More of your kind? Ryan smiled. Rescue team. They must have picked up my distress beacon. The ship landed in a swirl of dust and wind. A ramp unfolded with a metallic hiss. Two figures in clean white suits stepped out, scanning the area. One of them shouted, Captain Hale! We thought you were dead. Ryan waved, exhaustion mixing with relief. Close enough. He turned to Lura. Come on. Let's get you to safety. But she didn't move. Her eyes were distant, fixed on the rising sun. What's wrong? Ryan asked. She looked at him slowly. Your people will fear me too, won't they? I am not human, and I can do things they don't understand. Ryan stepped closer, his voice steady. They'll listen to me. You saved my life and in theirs too. They'll see that, she smiled sadly. You have too much faith, he shook his head. No, Lura, I just refuse to give up on what's right. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air was filled with the hum of the ship and the rustle of the wind through the burned trees. Finally, Lura took his hand. Her fingers were warm now, alive. Then I'll walk beside you, she said softly. Together they climbed the ridge toward the ship. The humans stared in quiet shock as they approached, a soldier covered in ash and blood, and a glowing alien woman walking barefoot at his side. Ryan stopped at the foot of the ramp. She's with me, he said firmly. No one touches her. The lead officer hesitated. Captain, what happened here? Ryan looked back at the valley, at the ruins, the river, the faint blue mist still curling over the water. He thought about the hunters, the fear, and the lie that had nearly killed her. A war ended, he said finally, and something better began. The officer nodded slowly, signaling the crew to lower their weapons. Lura stepped onto the ramp, her eyes wide as she looked inside the ship. Everything was bright and clean, full of light and promise. She turned back once more, gazing at her world, a land of ash, smoke, and memory. "Maybe they'll learn," she said quietly. "Maybe the river will forgive them too." Ryan smiled. "Maybe it already has." The ramp closed and the engines roared to life. As the ship rose into the morning sky, the planet below grew smaller, its clouds parting like silver threads. Inside the cabin, Ryan sat by the window, staring at the fading blue light of the river far below. Lura sat beside him, her hands folded neatly on her lap. She turned to him and said softly, "You never asked why I was afraid of humans." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Because of the war?" She shook her head. "No, because I thought humans had no mercy." He smiled faintly. "Guess one proved you wrong." She looked at him, a peaceful light in her eyes. "No, Captain. You proved mercy is stronger than any weapon." Outside the window, the sun rose higher, flooding the ship with gold light. Ryan leaned back, closing his eyes for the first time in days. "Then maybe we both learned something," he murmured. Lura turned her gaze toward the stars, her reflection glowing faintly in the glass. "The river carried me once," she whispered. "Now the sky will." And as the Atlas 12 soared upward, leaving behind the smoke and sorrow of Alaris, the light of a new dawn spread across the stars, a quiet promise between two souls who refused to hate and chose to hope instead.